We are now going to invite Lawrence, our Group CEO of Consulus, to give the opening address. And maybe you can mention Croatia trip in your address. Over to you, Lawrence.
Thank you. Okay, dearest friends, we consider all of you family. That's why you are invited. Yeah, if you're not our friend, you're not family, you're in the wrong room, right? So I think today we had an incredible summit. There were many stories, personal stories of resilience despite the difficulties. And this pandemic has been cruel. Cruel in the sense that it strips you out of your dignity. It actually displaces you mentally in many ways. And I think from today's sharing, I was so inspired and moved by all the speakers. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Today marks the 18th year of the founding of Consulus. And so we are very happy that you can join us in this moment. Many of you have walked with us, listened to our preaching, shape the world, what shaped the world, And I remember when I started, one CEO told me, I want to do business. I don't want to change the world, can or not? Those were the early days when you talk about impact, you talk about inclusive economy, you fly over the head of many CEOs. But I must say, the CEOs in the room, the clients, you were the first ones who believed in us. So give yourself a round of applause. And every one of you, I remember the conversations, right? But still, it's not been easy because Consulus, as you know, we are very much influenced by the idealism, in a sense, of UNESCO Peace Prize Chiara Lubich. In 1991, when she flew to Brazil, seeing the extreme divide between the very rich and the poor, she felt that in Sao Paulo, it was like a crown of thorns. And she wondered whether there is a higher calling for business. And she challenged the 1,000 people who gathered to listen to her in Brazil at the time, many of them professionals, entrepreneurs, to say that there is a higher purpose for business. How can business also overcome poverty? But not just simply material poverty. She spoke about how to overcome poverty of relationship, because the first step towards denying a human person his or her right of existence is to remove him or her and treat the person as lesser being to yourself. So it's not about money. It's about identity. If you respect someone, if you care about someone, you will do something for that person. So that was the first and the hardest thing to do, because giving money is easy. But how can business be incubators, be a hub of communion? Communion as in shared burdens, shared hopes, shared concerns. And how many companies are living hells for their employees? In the 18 years of work that we have done, there are so many employees, and management also suffering. It's not always true that the staff are suffering. Management also suffering, because management actually want their team to work in unity. But politics, differences, aggravated tensions, make it stressful for CEOs to work for the well-being of their employees. So it's not an easy equation. Impact for the economy, but first, impact for the economy must start from people, must start from persons. So when we started, we thought that consultancy is automatically a business for good. Then we realized that when you grow bigger, it's hard to be good. It's profit margin. It's about sending 400 staff in some of the largest IT consulting firms, right? Outsourcing from by Facebook in order to check horrible images, putting their staff through mental health, right? Hell. So we cannot simply trust the largest organizations in the world to do good. And good is very hard to do. Easier said than done. And today, many of the speakers, I think I was very moved when Melvin said his own journey. Well, it's easier said than done because it's expensive, it's costly. Costly in terms of human time, costly in terms of cost, right? So we have to go at the situation in a very systemic way. We try to do this by doing what we call an inclusive economic system, by influencing leaders, by helping companies and cities with their transformation, right? But real transformation, not transformation of a concept, not a theoretical transformation, but transformation from the hearts and with a business model to power it. So this has been our guiding compass. And over the years, with so many of you here throughout the world, and with so many Consulites that I've the pleasure and the grace to work with, we have done something, but it's not fast enough. It frustrates the hell out of me that this is very hard to hack, right? You can go on and on telling people, shape the world, and people will just look at you with blank faces, right? How do you do it? And I think over the years, what has been inspiring is we have an opportunity to work with many CEOs who also want to impact the world for good. So when I met Datuk Chris, and I wanted to become a priest, right? So because I wanted to be a priest, I'm not attracted by money, right? So money has no effect on me, right? And that frightens my business partner, Jeffrey, right? Because he comes from Hong Kong, and many a times I will say providence, God will provide, And our company is not all the same, right? We are different religious. Some people have no religion. But that is my driving force because I don't need money, right? That makes me a very powerful person, right? So I think that's how Chris and I, my dear brother Chris and my colleague, we connected, right? Because he has this wealth of capability, and there I have another kind of wealth. I have the wealth of purpose, right? We connected. And I think when I brought him to Rome, he asked me, what's this trip about? He said, I told him it's an economy of convenience. He said, what is the economy of convenience? What are you trying to do? Is this CSR? Is this, giving money and all this? No, it's not about giving money. It's about deciding with the heart, one step at a time, whether you want to change the economy for good. And he thought about it. He didn't answer me. Later on, he texted me, okay, I'll come with you to Rome. By the way, he shook the hands of Pope Francis, right? So that was incredible, right? A lot of people try to go to Rome, they can only see Pope Francis from far. You have 100 over 1,000 people, and there he was in the front row shaking the hands of Pope Francis, right? Quite incredible. But something happened in that meeting in 2017. Many of us in that conference, the Economy of Convenience Conference, we have been working for good. We have been trying to do our best to, kind of like shift the world one step at a time forward, right? To do something great. But Pope Francis said, the economy of communion, if it wants to be faithful to the charism, must not only care for the victims, but build a system, right? Where there are fewer victims, where possibly there may no longer be any, right? As long as the economy still produces one victim and there is still a discarded person, communion has not yet been achieved, right? The celebration of a universal fraternity is not full, right? And therefore we must work towards changing the rules of the games of the social economic system. Imitating the Good Samaritan of the gospel is not enough. Now, you must understand, for those who may not be familiar with the Christian scripture, in the Christian scripture, the Good Samaritan is held up as the standard of giving and sacrifice. And to hear your leader say, Good Samaritan is not enough. Helping people is not good enough. You must change the system. Then I was so shocked because I thought wrong translation, because we were listening to 30 over languages, So I said, it is right. And I think that moment, Dato' Chris and myself and a few of us, we looked at each other and say, what can we do? And I was so glad that, Chris, in his way, he felt called, in a sense, to do this in Sarawak. I mean, we cannot do everything. We cannot try to change everything, but we can do where we are to achieve the greatest impact. So that was really exciting, but we still do not know what to do, because sometimes you say, hey, let's start. Go where? Do what? Right? And all these things, right? But we kept that dream alive, right? And so I was sharing with Chris that what I learned from consulting, the biggest problem in change management is the poverty of trust. You will have a room of people full of talents, but because there are no trust, nothing can happen. It is not a lack of ideas. In fact, there was a study done about PhD papers, all those people with permanent head damage, sorry, but they do so well, they write fantastic papers. There was a study that shows that only 1% of the best ideas in the world are actually implemented. So that's a running joke among, I know some of us are in the smart city business, right? Smart cities, actually it's not that smart because it cannot be implemented. Because sometimes it's too smart. I don't know how to implement it, right? So those of us in the trade, you know what I mean, right? So first problem, poverty of trust. Easy to talk, easy to wish for, impossible to do. Second reason, our institutions are not upgraded. Janet gave an inspiring call to action just now, and I want to thank Janet. She just recovered from COVID, and she's here with us. Thanks, Janet. Janet gave us a resounding call because she called this the new normal. What's the problem with the new normal? The war in Ukraine is a proof that institutions are failing. That's why we can't even agree. We can't even move. And this is another problem that we have, poverty of institutions. And lastly, it's the poverty of solutions, applicable solutions, not theoretical solutions. So when we invited all of you to come and join us for the summit, and we talk about future resilience by design, if I could rewrite the title of future resilience by design, I would say, will humanity have a future? It won't, Elon Musk talk about going to Mars. Somebody joke, maybe we don't need to go to Mars, there's no more planet Earth. Don't need to go anymore, there's no one, right? And I fear for my daughter. My daughter is growing up, she's 6 years old. Every other day she asks me, Daddy, why you work so hard? Can you don't work so hard? Can you don't travel? And I said, Natalia, I'm trying to fight for a better world for you because I'm scared for your future. And I always joke with her, whenever she wastes water, right? Next time your generation has no more water, you have to mine water from the moon. Right? No water. All the waters are polluted. Right? So if we talk about the 4 C's, the 4 C's is critical. Will humanity have a future? Will humanity have a cause to fight for? What is the cause? Our common humanity, our shared humanity. Enough of idealism. We have to get real when we have a humanity to work towards. Then the second thing, how can we reconcile? How can we see each other with new eyes that we are humanity together? How can we build a culture of trust? And then, how can we have a creative vision together? There's all this talk about Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0. The word industry is a horrible word. Horrible word. We are not made for industries. It should be humanity 4.0, humanity 5.0. It should be love 4.0. Right? So I always find it a very terrible struggle when I deal with this word as a consultant, myself. Right? But I know who set the rules of the game, right? McKinsey. Right? So you have to admit that it's hard. And you need to work with friends and partners whom you have the trust in order to have a pivot to change the world. That's why we need to do this project, DesignFutures Venture. I have been a consultant right now for 20 years, and I've served Consulus as CEO for 18 years, but I didn't do this alone. And at this moment, I want to ask the entire Consulus team in the room to stand up, because I want to thank all of you. Can all the Consulites stand up wherever you are? I want to thank you for all the years of the support you have given me, and I'm sure Consulus will continue to go on for another 100 years. Thank you very much. Now, I can tell you the problem of being a consultant. If you're a consultant, you're looking at the client to see whether they will actually implement the ideas. And you're staring at the client. You're going like, this is important, this is time sensitive, this needs to get done, right? And you have to be very mindful of your position as a consultant because you cannot go in and intervene in the business. So you have to be very mindful of that distance that you have. So what happens is that if you're always caught up with the role of advisory, then really nothing's get done, right? So you have to, roll up your sleeve and get involved. And so DesignFutures Venture is a vision by Dr. Chris and myself. We talked about it for over the year. Somehow, the pandemic give you a new sense of purpose. I don't know how many of you have rediscovered your purpose during the pandemic, but my moment of reviewing my own vocation and purpose came during the pandemic and in the conversations I have with Dr. Chris. So what are we looking at? We are looking at there is a unique opportunity between Singapore and Sarawak. By the way, my Sarawakian friends always remind me, hey, Singapore, don't forget, it is Singapore, Sabah, Sarawak, and Malaya that founded Malaysia, right? But then, you all ran away first. Lucky you! No. The Sarawakians are very proud Malaysians as well, right? But the Sarawakian identity is rising, yeah? So that's the very, very interesting thing. There's a special bond between the two states, right? Between Singapore and Sarawak. So what is the other great opportunity? Singapore is now the hub for great talent, great capital. We are a safe haven in this moment of the crisis that's going on. And Sarawak has this great land of opportunities. It's about the combination of the best of two. Now, more than that, if we want to prove the concept of the economy of communion, that it can work, it can be realized, then I would argue that Singapore and Sarawak is a very good place to try and make it work in a very holistic way. We are not claiming we have all the solutions. We are not claiming we can do everything. That's why we invited all of you. We hope that all of you will be our friends on this journey, right? In order to show that it is possible to work for a better humanity. It is possible to work for a better economy by design. So why did we come up with FEDS? We looked at FEDS for food. Why? Because there is a serious food crisis, but more than that, this food crisis has been going on for some time. And again, if we are talking about humanity, because you can go on and on talking about climate change or whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's about humanity. What can we do for the many sons and daughters who do not have the opportunity to have a proper meal? Then the second thing, environment is a given. But more than that, how can we ensure that the environment is affordable? Many of us know environmental projects, climate change projects, they are very fancy, they are wonderful, but they cost a bomb to implement, and they require serious financing. Singapore, we are very blessed. We have a government that is willing to follow through with the green plan, and it's real. At policy level, at financing level, it's a complete plan. But not many countries have this possibility. Now, Singapore should not be the only place in this region to survive the climate crisis. We have an obligation as Singaporeans to our region to work with our friends and partners to enable all to overcome the climate crisis. Right? So this is a very important responsibility. Then the next thing, with data. I think data is an overused word. A lot of people say data, but they don't know what they're talking about, because there are increasingly, we are talking about layers, sophistication, right? And how to properly manage the use of data. And that's an area that is critical for better employment opportunities, because if we don't create opportunities for the young, we will lose them, right? So that is another thing. Lastly, for outer space, if we want to not keep mining the earth, if we want to make sure that we have other possibilities to manage our resources, then the growing space industry is very critical. Singapore has a thriving space industry. For sure, Sarawak can benefit from the know-how in order to grow its capability and capacity. So in order to do this, in order to accelerate, what I foresee is this. The work of Consulus is involved in trying to solve the poverty of trust, building better cultures. It's trying to solve the poverty of institutions by working on transformation. DesignFutures Venture, the new business venture by Dr. Chris and myself, will be focusing on financing the solutions. It's an investment holding company. And I want to say that in 4 years' time, I will step down from Consulus. The team is ready. We have begun the process. Very Singaporean style. Huh? Before you step down, you must announce way in advance. Yeah? You cannot last minute, right? So we bring the Singaporean culture, and this is the same advice I give to my clients. Plan ahead. your succession, right? So I'm also here to announce that in 4 years' time, I will step down from Consulus, and we have already begun the search committee and the process. And I hope you will give your continued support to my team at Consulus. That will mean a lot to me, but I will remain as a consultant mentor. I will not leave consulting. I will be in different meetings, and probably I can be more provocative and say things to irritate people because I'm no longer the CEO of Consulus. So as the consultant mentor, I can say what is in my heart, right? To tell people to face up to the moment of truth. Yeah. So anyway, I'm not stepping down yet. So don't worry. 4 years time, right? So with Dato' Chris, we will work very hard to build DesignFutures Venture to impact and accelerate projects.